Hello, everyone. Welcome back to This Is Why We Stand. My name is Joe Archino, and I was inspired to make this series to convey the true meaning of the American flag and why that flag should always be honored and respected. And as always, that flag is an eternal memorial to our service members, past and present. And this episode, as every episode does, spotlights one of our many heroes who have fought throughout our illustrious history. And we start this one by talking about Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith, who is a Medal of Honor recipient and sadly gave his life for his country. But his heroic story is one that I think we should always keep in mind. And Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith was a member in the United States Army during the Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, and during one of the initial stages of that war, he was one of the ones who paid the ultimate price and sacrificed himself for his country. But I will start to kind of give you his story, and like I always do, I always recommend that you go out on your own and you read his Medal of Honor citation, because I think I can kind of give you my take on it. I can give you my voice and kind of my highlights from that. But I always think that you get so much more out of a personal connection with these individuals by going out on your own and reading their Medal of Honor transcripts. I can't tell you how many I've read, and the words are almost embedded in my mind, and you can't forget some of the things that you read about these incredible individuals. So the link to his Medal of Honor citation will be in the description box below, but we will kind of start things out. On April 4th, 2003, Smith and his men were kind of in a prisoner holding area just outside Baghdad International Airport, where it was kind of still in development. It was being built, so obviously the defenses aren't great. Things are being built. Things are very new. And then all of a sudden, they come under attack by a company-sized enemy force, and that's between 80 and 250 men. So right off the bat, the Americans are certainly taken by surprise. An overwhelming amount of enemy are coming towards their position. Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith immediately organized a defensive perimeter of the area, and I think he kind of understood right away the situation that him and his men were in, because certainly they're being attacked, and this is an area that's still kind of new, and the enemy that's coming in front of them, obviously, these are battle-hardened individuals who very much so want to cause as much harm as possible, but he obviously organized the defenses right away, and then once they came under attack, he had basically a very good understanding of the area that it was in and understood that his 100 fellow soldiers were in a very vulnerable state right off the bat. So he, under heavy fire, he's using his hand grenades, he's using anti-tank weapons to help keep the enemy at bay. As the fighting is going on, there's an APC vehicle, armored personnel carrier, which that stands for basically, and it got hit by an RPG round and then by a mortar round. There were 3 soldiers in the vehicle. Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith ensured that those men were able to be evacuated, and as the battle is going on and more men are being wounded and trying to evacuate, trying to get to safe's way, Sergeant Smith kind of looked at the situation and grew very concerned that his men were in great danger of being overrun. He really was worried that his men were about to be overrun. So what he did was he threw himself right into the fire and charged to a somewhat destroyed APC, but the 50 caliber turret was still operable on top of that. And what he basically did was he ran it all by himself under heavy fire, and he manned that gun, allowing so many wounded soldiers to evacuate the area. That is where he was fatally killed, was manning the 50 caliber turret. But his heroism of running to that gun straight through it by himself allowed the rest of the Americans to evacuate. Over 50 enemy forces were killed during the course of this engagement, and you could credit many of them. We're not sure exactly how many, but you can credit many of those to Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith, and the evacuation, the amount of Americans who survived that day are all because of him in the one act that he did. But, this is obviously a common trend. Every episode that I give you and every story that I give you, they all are different under different circumstances, but they all carry the same meaning, and that these are people who, when things are almost always going down, going wrong, they're always finding a way to put themselves in harm's way so that others might live. I mean, I can't tell you how many individuals I've told you stories about who always put the people, the brothers next to them first, and they put themselves in harm's way so that they might live. And that is exactly what Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith did. He ran headfirst to the turret. He commanded that turret for as long as possible. That's where he was fatally killed. But by doing so, he allowed so many more of his men to live. And then at the end of the day, victory was in American hands. But I think this really was, of course, it's one of those ones where times have changed so much, and especially the face of warfare has changed so much since the 1960s. And I think we've seen our military adjust very well in many regards to that, to face and meet this new challenge. And I think every time a new conflict starts, obviously things are always going through a learning process. And I think this was one of those situations where we were still kind of learning and thrown into a new environment, trying to do different new things. But Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith, like so many others I've read stories about, was a true American hero in every single way, and we honor his memory and his name forever by telling his story, by, of course, never forgetting the sacrifice that he made for all of us. But that is going to do it for this episode of This Is Why We Stand, everyone. As always, I have a written version up on Instagram, up on Facebook, and up on my website finally. I've been working on it for so long, and I debuted it not too long ago. I will have the description to my This Is Why We Stand website in the description below, and if you kind of read everything that I have up on there, you kind of will see very, very clearly what my mission is. And I think, to me, I'm always looking for people to help me in my mission. So if anyone is interested in writing or producing their own content to honor our service members, past and present, to tell a story of undaunted American courage and bravery, I very highly recommend that you get in contact with me, because I'd be very happy to put some content up on my website for you. And I think it's a platform that's going to continue to expand. But as always, everyone, I thank you for the support, and I will see you in the next episode.